Okay.
All right, guys. So this is a RockerMike present, and who do we have today, Mike?
Hello, Rob. Hello. This is RockerMike, and we've got LaLa Brooks here, the famous LaLa Brooks from the Crystals. I'm really honored to have her here today. So say hello, LaLa.
Hi, everyone. How you doing?
Okay, great. LaLa, now we're going to jump right in because you have an incredible career here I want to talk about in depth, if you don't mind. Okay.
No problem. Yeah.
All right. It's really amazing. Every time I talk to someone, I learn so many new things. And just researching this show, I have a million questions for you. So we're gonna have fun here.
Okay.
All right. Now you're from Brooklyn originally, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you started singing at a young age, I understand.
Yeah. First,
Did you have any? How old?
Started singing gospel when I was about 7.
Okay. Did you have any training or anything, or it was just straight up your own thing?
No, it was no training. I just had a voice that God gave me, and I could sing, but no training whatsoever.
Okay. Now you're known originally from being in the Crystals, and I just want to give the listeners out here a little background on the Crystals before we're going to talk about when you jumped in. Okay. Okay, now the Crystals were formed in 1961 when you had singers Barbara Alston, Mary Thomas, Dolores, also known as Dee Dee Kennebrew,
Yes.
Myrna Gerard, and Patricia, also known as Patsy Wright. Barbara Alston's uncle Benny Wells was acting as the manager and got the band signed to Phil Spector's label, Phyllis Records. Phillies or Phyllis? How do you pronounce that?
Phyllis.
Phyllis, okay. Now, in November of 61, they had their first hit single called There's No Other Like My Baby. The song actually peaked at number 20 in January of 62, and it was written originally by Phil Spector and Leroy Bates, I believe his name was.
Right.
Now, an interesting side note on that song, just to mention it, is when that song was recorded, Barbara, Mary, and Myrna actually showed up in their prom dresses because they recorded it after their prom.
Yeah.
Did you know? Yeah. Did you know that? You probably knew that, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Now, immediately after, they went for another single, a song called Uptown, and it was written by Brill Building writers Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil.
Yes.
Now, that was another hit, and it got to number 13.
Yes.
Now, here's where you come into the picture.
Well, I came into the picture before.
Oh, really? Tell us.
Yeah, I came in a picture when I was 13.
Oh, okay.
And Barbara, naturally didn't know the group. I knew Dee Dee's mom, Dee Dee Kennebrew's mom, Dolores Kennebrew's mom, way before I knew the Crystals.
Wow.
And what happened was I went to the 7th grade. I was like 12 and a half. Dee Dee's mom, Mrs. Henry. Mrs. Henry used to be the woman that was in my school every day, making sure the kids, like in the playgrounds and after school programs, Dee Dee's mom was always there for us. So my mom didn't allow us to play on the street. Right. So she would tell us when we finished school, change your clothes, go back to school and do some type of recreation. But Dee Dee's mom would always be there after school for the children, for us. So one day when I went there, I didn't feel like jumping rope. I didn't feel like playing volleyball and things like that. So I heard this piano. When I walked in and Mrs. Henry, Dee Dee's mom was saying, "LaLa, what are you going to do this afternoon? You want to, do this? You want to do that?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, find something to, keep you busy." And I heard this piano and I started walking down the hallway where this piano was playing. And I stood in the doorway and I said to this man, his name is Leo, I said, "Could I sing?" And he said, "Can you?" And I said, "Yes." So I started singing a song that I heard on the radio. Right. And Dee Dee's mom came down the hallway. And when I stopped, she said to me, "Was that you with that big voice, that little girl that I hear?" And I said, "Yeah." And then she told me about the Crystals. Now, mind you, I was only 12 and a half years old.
Sure.
But I had a big voice. So she said, "Would you like to join a group?" I was looking at it, and then I had heard the song "There's No One Like My Baby." So as a child, you're gonna say yeah, or yes, whatever. And
Right.
then I thought, I said, but then as a kid, I said, but oh no, I said, you have to ask my mom. And then she said, I will. And so she came by my mom's house. She asked my mom. My mom was reluctant, and she said that they was doing a tour or getting ready to do some work, and they would have a guardian. So that's what happened. And then I got in the group right away. I don't even believe Myrna did anything with them. Maybe just go to a graduation, or maybe when There's No Other Was Like My Baby was out. I did the background with Uptown. All Barbara's things I did background with. It started with Uptown. I didn't do anything on There's No Other Like My Baby.
Right.
But I did everything. And then even when we did Uptown with Phil in New York, Myrna came in and she did the background too. I guess they felt that she was part of the group, so they wanted to make her part of the group still. But she wasn't. Right. She was completely out because she had gotten pregnant and she was gone.
Right, I was going to say that because okay.
So so I did. Only record I didn't do was There's No Other Like My Baby, but all of Barbara's things, Uptown, I Love You, Eddie, What a Nice Way to Turn 17. I did all the background, and my voice was so big until Phil was like, I didn't blend well. So what he would do in the studio in New York, he would put the girls together and put me behind them, so my voice won't be too strong even for background. So that's when I joined the group. So then when I was 12 and a half, when I turned 13, that's when I did this tour with them. And that was like 1961. So I was in the group, really, would you say, from the beginning as original, because Myrna never did a job with them. Maybe something, a bit thing here and there with There's No Other Like My Baby. But as soon as I got in the group, I started doing background with There's No Other Like My Baby. And definitely I did background with Uptown because I knew it from the studio. So that's how it happened. I didn't know any of the girls, but Dee Dee's mom, Mrs. Henry, introduced me from working in my school, PS 73. She worked there.
I see. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm glad you cleared that up because different sources I was researching kind of had it a little bit differently.
Yeah, they have it a little backwards,
Yeah, it's all right. You cleared it up.
Yeah,
but it's a minor thing.
I see some of the information here with Dee Dee and everything else, and you attended PS 73 and it's a bunch of information about you here. And you pretty much started. Do you have you were a family of 11? You had 11 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, but I'm the second generation.
The second generation, all right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of family right there.
Yeah, because my mom had children before me, and then my brothers and sisters were older. They were old enough to be my children. In fact, some of my nieces are the same age as I am because my mother was having children with her daughters. If you could understand that.
Wow.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you played on Uptown. You sang on that. Now, what I was finding interesting is that there seemed to be some maybe beginnings of some shenanigans going on there. Okay, because it looked like you guys never got paid for There's No Other Like My Baby and Uptown. Is that true?
Well, we never got paid for anything, really.
Yeah.
To do Run, Then He Kissed Me, what I did, those vocals, all my Christmas album with the girls, and I mean, not with the girls, but, with the recordings, and Phil just never paid the girls. He never paid us.
Yeah. Were you aware of it, or you?
We get royalties now, some royalties now, but to be honest, Phil did not. Many groups were shafted in that time, and then you have contracts where the contracts is always, so what do you call it? So confusing, And then plus we're young kids. I'm 13. Dee was 15. Barbara and I were 18. Our parents didn't know anything about the legalese thing, the small prints and things like that. And then when you're young, you're sort of like being a spoiled brats, and your mom is saying, I don't know whether to sign this. And you're saying, oh, I want to go on the road. Just sign it. You don't know what the heck you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So
you were on the road at 13?
I was on the road at 13 years old. And I was taken out of, I was at PS 73, and we went on the road so quickly and did a tour until they had to snatch me out of school when I was 13 and put me in a private school. And I went to a school called Mace, and it was on 72nd Street and Central Park. And it was like a huge brownstone.
Yeah.
And I went to school with kids that was like, the school was like from the 1st grade to the 8th, or the kindergarten to the 8th. And I started school with kids that did soap operas, like the children on soap operas or their parents on soap operas.
Like children of celebrities and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It was very hard for me because I came from a school that was black and white, and the curriculum, everything was more so mentally for me to handle. I go to the school in Mace, and it was like, whoa, because these kids were much more advanced, and they were mostly white children. I had only 2 black kids, 2 black girls. They remind you of, I can only say they remind you of the Bill Cosby kids.
Like the Cosby Show.
Those 2 girls that I was in school with.
Mm-hmm.
But if you count the whole school from the 1st grade or the kindergarten to the 8th grade, we were the only 3 blacks in the school.
Wow.
And these kids were very wealthy. In fact, some of them used to come to school in the limousine and be dropped off.
Oh, wow.
So it was like a culture shocking to me.
Of course.
Because sometimes I couldn't keep up with the work because in our school, they didn't give us much, work like the white kids would get. That's the same thing we have today in the schools. So I had to work very hard to get up to these kids that was wealthy. Their moms was paying, and the school was crazy because, in a good sense, because it was very, I would say, like very Ivy League.
Yes.
Very uppity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right on Central Park.
Of course.
So you can imagine how beautiful it was to go to a school like that.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was taken out of junior high school. Then I went to high school, a private high school. Dee Dee went to that high school with me, Dee Dee Kennebrew.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to school with Gregory Hines' brother, Patty Duke,
wow.
Anthony Quinn's son, Duncan Quinn.
Wow.
I went to school with Bernadette Peters. I know Bernadette very now. We went to school with all those kids.
He's great. Wow.
Dinah Washington's son.
Mm-hmm.
She had 2 sons. And I went to school with Dinah Washington's son, the famous Dinah Washington.
That's amazing.
The singer. So,
yeah.
I went to great school.
Yeah, I guess it had to be that way considering, what you were doing. You couldn't be mixed in with everybody back at PS 73.
Yeah, and I had to be on the road. So I only went to school when I did go to school, I only went to school from in my high school, I only went to school from 10 to 1.
What's it like being on the road in those days at 13? Obviously you got guardians and stuff like that, but it must have been like a whirlwind for you, right? To go all different places around the country.
Yeah. That's when I was first introduced to Europe. And I remember saying to myself, I was in England, I went to Australia and things like Australia. And I remember as a kid, I was like 14, 15, saying, when I get older, I want to live in Europe. Just thinking as a child of mine.
And you would do that.
And I did.
Wow.
Because I loved Europe so much. I still love Europe. One of my older daughters, she's still in Europe. She's still in Vienna. But on the road, it was hard. Sometimes it was difficult because we didn't have the buses and we didn't have the planes and flying like the kids do today. So we had to do that.
You roughed it more.
We had to rough it. You know what I'm saying? When we got on stage, it was something different. When you're working with Supremes, and all of the Shirelles, everybody, you become as a family. But as far as traveling is concerned, it's very, very difficult,
Sure, I would imagine.
Very difficult.
And then it's just culture shock, like you say, going to Europe at that young age. That must have been culture shock. I know it would be for me. Yeah,
it was very much like that. But I got through it because I had a guardian. But it was very difficult and then on the road you had, when I was so young, I had the racism thing I had to deal with. So I became very upset and sad, and it was a lot for me. Because
you didn't experience that too much in Europe, right? It was more here, probably.
No, I didn't experience that at all in Europe. I experienced that in America.
Right.
Only in our country, because in Europe, they think of, especially in Vienna, when I lived there, they think as women, they would say to me, sehr schön, and I would think that, and the men would be looking, and I would be getting an attitude, that American thing. And then I'd go home and I'd speak to my daughters, and they speak perfect German. I put them in a great school in Vienna. And I'd go home and I would say to my daughters, I was standing at the bus stop and I had my hair like this and la la la. And I said, the man was saying me, sehr schön. And my daughters looked at me and I said, I gave him an attitude. And my daughter said, Ma, he's saying so beautiful. So Europeans look at Black people as exotic, a lot of them.
Right.
And especially if you're not bad looking, they look at you as exotic.
Yeah.
But America looks at you as like a piece of crap. You know what I'm saying? So when I was young and I was in the South, I became very angry. I was very angry. The girls wasn't as angry as I was because they were younger and they may have understood. Because Barbara and Dee Dee was 15, 16. Barbara was 18. They had graduated from high school. I was only a 13-year-old being not allowed to go to the bathroom. So I was very, very angry.
Wow.
I hated white people. At 13, I would go home and my father was from the South and my mom was from the North. My mother's American Indian, but my dad was Black from the South, and he was very subservient and very much patriotic. And I was like, what the heck? And I'd stand up in the middle of the floor and I'd cry and I'd say, I hate them. They're evil and they're not right. And my father would say, Dolores, now them people be kind to you. You got to be nice to them. And the more he said that, the more I wanted to just scream. But as I got older, and then I, became more religious, and even when I got older, I realized that it's not the best thing to be angry. And then I started learning, when you're a kid, you think different. But when you get older, you realize that the person that is racist is a sick mind. It's not normal, because God created us through Adam and Eve.
Right.
And I'd say, like I told somebody, if you really want to say all white people are Black people, they're just light skinned from evolution, but we all came from Black mother.
That's absolutely true. That is 100% accurate.
The white people don't want to acknowledge that because they got blue eyes, but hell, my grandma Sarah had blue eyes. My nephew Ronnie has green eyes. My niece Estelle has green eyes. So the eye thing is a joke, because all of my family, there's green eyes, blue eyes. My grandmother, my great-grandmother, which was my mother's mother, she came to live with us when she was 89 and she died at 98. And she had such blue eyes. The boys and people in our neighborhood, when they know that my grandmother was living with us, because it was my mother's grandmother. And when they come up to our house and they said, oh my God, LaLa, your grandmother got blue eyes, and would get around the neighborhood, they would want to come and see my grandmother's blue eyes, because, in a certain neighborhood, in our neighborhood, it wasn't, a lot of people didn't have that. So what I'm saying is that if people really want to, it's a joke. Racism is a joke, because there's nobody here white. They all come from Adam and Eve. And when I used to go to church and there used to be a cross up there with a white man, that was a joke. Santa Claus is a joke.
Right.
Jesus is a joke, because they came from warm climate. And if you come
they couldn't have been white like that. Right.
They couldn't have been white like that. But that was indoctrination, like to make you feel inferior. But what happened to me is that I became stronger. So I became strong as a Black girl and a Black woman. You could put 1,000 white people in the room, and I would walk in there like I am so important. I am just as important. So as I grew, and I realized that you're only intimidated by your thoughts.
Exactly.
Or by what you think. Or you're only intimidated if I allow you to get inside my spirit and let me believe that you're better. You follow me?
No, I totally do. And I could, I agree 100%.
It's a mental thing. It has nothing to do with color.
Right, right. And
if I can make somebody inferior.
When you say racism is a joke, okay, I agree with you, because there's only one race, and that's the human race.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's
then you know what I mean, Mike. You know what I'm saying.
Totally. I know exactly what you're saying, and without going off on a whole thing about it, but it's just like the world today. Nothing ever changes. No, my parents, and this what is going on now in the world. It's just nothing ever changes, unfortunately, and it's because of so many ignorance, basically.
It's ignorance and stupidity and inferior. It's inferior. If you want to look at something inferior, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, white people are very inferior. And I would say the same thing in black people. If they felt that they could kill somebody and be over somebody and, come in there with ammunition and cops, that's inferiority complex. And that comes from fear of, I have something that I don't want you to take.
Yeah.
And it's all about fear. And white people have a lot of fear. And they don't realize that the reason why black people are so strong, and white people would be the same way, but white people are very delicate. Black people are not delicate, but it could be the same way around. But white people have to understand the reason why they're fragile and they're delicate. It would be with me too. If I've had that battle all the time, that I'm superior and I don't have to do anything, and the silver platter comes on my plate all the time, and I don't have to fight for anything, I become very weak. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do.
So sometimes with black people are very strong, or white people would be the same thing, but we become very strong is because if you keep poking us, either we're going to faint, or we're going to succumb, or we're going to go in a shovel or shell. But what happens to black people, for some reason, we get stronger. I think because we hold on to God a little bit differently.
Well, also I find in my experience with all different kinds of people, I'm a native New Yorker. I'm originally from Brooklyn. I live in Queens.
Cool.
I'm around here my whole life.
Yeah.
People that I meet, black people that I meet, it also depends on where they grew up and what culture they're from. For instance, my wife is Haitian. She's from Haiti originally. Okay. And she's been here since the late 80s. Right. She had to flee from the baby doc regime, that whole thing.
Wow.
And her culture is very different than Black American culture.
It is.
Okay. In a lot of ways. I mean, of course, you go back hundreds of years. I mean, they're here for the same reasons that American blacks were here, and that was slavery. Okay. But, I find that talking to different Black people from different cultures, they're all it's all a little different. Not everybody is exactly the same. And I find a beauty in that, I'm saying. Okay.
Me too. And look at Haitian, the Haitian country. Look at that. That was one of the biggest, what do you call it? That country, oh my God. They had queens, kings. You know what I'm trying to say? Oh my God.
They were the first slave rebellion in history.
Yes.
To ever, throw over France. Okay.
Yes.
And and that is still, you talk about a culture, it's still, that is part of the Haitian culture every single day of their lives. They talk about Dessalines and other, like they're George Washingtons. They talk about that even to this day. It's part of their lives.
Really? Does she speak French? Does she speak French?
Yes, French, Creole. Yeah.
Oh, she speaks it. Oh, so she still does.
Yes. Yeah, she still keeps in touch with people there, and she's got friends. Haitian people are very tight. I mean, and
I know.
you could be. I remember one time we went down to New Orleans, and we're walking down the street, and there was a guy sitting in his cab. It was a cousin.
Really?
It's like everybody. They could go to you go to another city, you'll find somebody that's related to you on the street. It's funny.
Yeah, it's so sweet. But it's so sweet, so sweet.
Yeah. I hope you can meet us someday. That would be nice. You guys.
I'd love to because I'm very friendly, and plus I love people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have anything with color. I don't have anything with, and that's what I guess sometimes it breaks my heart because I just don't have that in me. I don't have that racism. I just don't have it.
No, I could tell you don't, and you've been through a lot. You experienced it firsthand growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
In the business and everything. But I want to get back to the music a little bit.
Sure.
And I want to talk to you about a little controversial song that I'm sure you were not a fan of, but I want to get into a little bit because I find it interesting that it even got recorded. And that's the song called He Hit Me and It Felt Like a Kiss.
Yeah, Bobby did that.
Now, that was written by Carole King and her husband, Jerry Goffin, at the time.
Jerry Goffin, yeah.
Yeah. Now, the story goes, according to Carole King, is that her babysitter, which was Little Eva, the locomotion, right? Little Eva.
Yes.
And she explained to Carole one time that her boyfriend was beating her, basically. Yeah. And she said, well, it's because he loves me. And I think she even used the words, he hit me and it felt like a kiss. Okay,
Yeah.
in the conversation. Now, how did you feel about recording a song like that, like right off the bat?
As I said, Barbara Austin did the lead.
Barbara did the lead, right?
And I would say
right.
background, but I couldn't understand it. I just couldn't understand it. And then when they put it out, it was a disaster because
It bombed, right?
It bombed because we were so young to be singing something like that. So they wouldn't play it on the radio. But what's so crazy, Mike and Bob? Is it Rob or Bob? Rob, what's so crazy about it when we was on the road? Everybody, especially in Europe, they love it. If I sing that on stage, people go crazy. And Amy Winehouse loved it.
I was going to say that was a big influence on her, that song.
Yes.
Courtney Love actually did a version of it with her band Hole.
Are you kidding me?
They did a version of it. And you know, it's funny. I first heard that song because I'm a big fan of Spectre and the girl groups and even the non-Spectre girl groups like the Shirelles and stuff like that.
Right.
I love. Okay. And years back, it had to be in the early 90s, there was a box set called Back to Mono that released all the Phil Spector stuff, and you know, quite a few Crystal songs were in there, the hits and a couple of the other ones that weren't. And that was in there, and I had never heard that song before because my exposure to the girl groups was basically the hits. Okay, what I heard growing up on CBS FM was always on in my house. My father was a big doo-wop guy, still is in his late 70s now. Okay. You know, and my mom loved the girl group, so I heard a lot of your music. But it was pretty much the hits. But I never heard that one, and I was like, that song is just nuts. Okay, and I mean, they actually had some protests and stuff, right, over here in America, right?
Sure, that's how I got it off the radio because people thought it was outrageous, you know.
Wow.
And now it would be banned completely.
You couldn't write a song. That.
You couldn't write a song.
It wouldn't even get it wouldn't even get that far.
But it's still so crazy when I did it I went to San Sebastian and I did things in France. And I sang that song. I had a band there, and I brought my music director. He's from Japan. He's Japanese. He's very, very talented. And he kept coming to me in the dressing room. We have to do it. He hit me. He said they love it. I don't know whether it's daunting or when they go do, 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 do. I don't know what the heck it is, but the people go crazy over it. I don't know. It's crazy. But it's just cool.
Hey, let me ask a quick question because I know you did it. How did you get into Broadway? Because I think the Broadway stuff is fascinating.
Yeah, I did 2 General Verona, and I did Hair. I did Aquarius. I was original cast in Aquarius.
Yeah, that's what I was fascinated by that you did Hair, you did Aquarius.
I was in the dressing room with Diane Keaton and Melba Moore and a girl named Laurie Davis. We spent 2 years or more in the dressing room with Diane Keaton. Diane Keaton was the first Sheila in Hair.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
She was 25 and I was 22. So we did Hair and I did Aquarius and I did all the other, I covered everybody else, understudied everyone else. So what happened was my husband was in Hair. He was a famous drummer in Hair and he made all the music for Hair. And then I went to audition and with Galt McDermott and Jim Rado and all of the guys that wrote it, and Galt McDermott wrote all the music. Jim and Jim Rado, they wrote the play. And as soon as I auditioned, I got the part.
Wow.
And I was in there with Ronnie Dyson too. He did Aquarius too, but I took over Aquarius also. Then I did
what was that for about a year or two you did that?
Yeah. And then I went into 2 General Verona. That was great. I did that with Raul Julia and Clifton Davis.
He was a good actor, Raul. Raul Julia was a great actor.
Yeah.
And so it's a sweetheart.
I love that.
Such a nice guy. You know?
Wow.
So when I did Broadway, I was fortunate. You know, I was very fortunate because I did other things and big things after the Crystals. And then I did Cotton Comes to Harlem with Melba Moore and Lita Galloway. I did that movie.
Yeah, you had that one song on there called Going Home, right?
Yeah, I had Going Home, and I had another one I did do it down in the marshland. Beautiful song.
Is that on the soundtrack?
Oh yes, with Lita Galloway. If you put up Lita Galloway, I'm singing it with her. And I love that song. I do the middle part. So I did that with Ossie Davis.
Yeah.
We were in it, and we did all the music for
Wow.
it. Me and Melba and Lita Galloway.
Wow.
Wow.
So I was fortunate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, you were fortunate, but you had the talent. So that's,
Yeah,
you know,
I did.
that's how it goes. And you still have the talent. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some wonderful clips for our listeners out there. If you want to check out LaLa, even in the last few years, there's some wonderful clips on YouTube of you singing some Crystal songs and other things. And there's even one of you singing the Ronettes' "Be My Baby," and you did a fantastic job on that too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, so I mean, even now, you're wonderful. You got a beautiful voice all these years.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. I want to get back just a little bit to some interesting little points here with the Crystals. One thing that maybe people don't realize, and I'll just kind of explain it quick, is, you know, Phil Spector would often switch personnel around and change the names of the bands and kind of like, you know, use different people and put them under a different band's name. And that happened to you guys with the Crystals, because when apparently when he was out in LA, which was where he was kind of like headquartered pretty much, He's a Rebel, which was written by Gene Pitney, was given to him to record, and he wanted the Crystals to do it. And you weren't out in LA, and he gave it to Darlene Love and the Blossoms and called it the Crystals, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, did you know this was happening, or just kind of like the song was released and you were like, what the hell? I mean, what happened with that?
No, well, like I said, people don't know that if it wasn't for the Crystals, there would be no Phil Spector.
Well, that's true.
Phil Spector we started Phil Spector. We made Phil Spector famous.
Right.
Because he was in New York with us with Carole King, you know, Jerry Goffin, you know, and all of them writing music for us. And Phil had a studio, I think it was 42nd Street, York, or something like that. We used to go to a studio, not a studio, he had an office where we practiced all of our stuff, and he had an apartment upstairs.
Right.
When Phil brought his record company to California, that's when the crap hit the fan. We started Phil, we had a contract with him, and we needed a record out. Phil got to California feeling his Cheerios and was not responding to our manager when Joe Scandori was telling him. Now, Joe Scandori was a mafioso guy. He used to manage John Rickles for 45 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And if you notice, if you ever do some clippings with Johnny Carson, when Dick, what's his name used to go on there, the comedian.
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles used to have to always mention Joe Scandori. And sometimes if you catch Johnny Carson, he used to duck when he had to remind
you. Know, I do recall that. Wow.
Do you recall that? Do you recall that?
Yes, I do. I'm a big Don Rickles fan, so I knew
Rickles
about
said,
him.
Yeah, Joe Scandori. Yeah. And then sometimes Johnny Carson would jump into the desk and say, well, you have to mention his name because, you know, I'm scared. You know. Yeah. So if you watch any clippings, sometimes you'll find that a few of them at that with Joe Scandori. So you know who I'm talking about. And Joe Scandori managed us. And he kept telling Phil, even though you went to California, you still have a contract with the Crystals. And, you know, they need a record out. The record's due. Phil didn't listen. Now,
really?
What I think about, Mike, Rob, when I was a kid, 14 years old, I remember, but you know how you forget things and don't put it together and just can't figure it out?
It comes to you later?
Yeah. As I got grown, I said, maybe that's why Phil did that with Darlene, because one day I used to always go up to Joe Scandori's office. He loved me to death because I was a baby. And he had one son, and he used to always bring me out to Ocean Parkway because he owned the Elegant Club.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
You know what club I'm talking about?
I do.
He owned the Elegant.
Yep.
And so he owned the Elegant, so we used to play the Elegant all the time. And so he used to bring me out to his house with his wife because he had that one son. And you know how somebody wants a daughter? And I was such a good girl. He didn't care about color or anything. So he'd say, "LaLa, you want to go to my house?" And I would sit there, and I'm telling you, the house was unbelievable. But Mike and Rob, I would sit there, and I'd see, I was so young. I was about 14, 15, and I'd see about 20 cameras around his apartment. I mean, his house. So I'd sit at the couch, and I'd look at these 20 cameras, and I'd say to myself, because we didn't have too much, we was poor, not poor, but we didn't have a lot. So seeing these cameras and say, wow, he turns each channel on these cameras, whatever he likes to watch. I didn't know until I got older that it was he was watching he was watching who went inside that Elegant.
Surveillance. Yeah, he was
they
looking
were
at everything.
surveillance cameras, and he was watching everything. So I noticed when I sat there was a camera.
Wow.
There was a television in the middle, like a regular TV around the sofa, and above me was all these cameras. And I was saying, why would they have it where they have one channel when I'm watching something, but why don't they have channels like other channels that's looking like TV? Couldn't figure it out. But anyway, that was surveillance cameras for him for owning the Elegant. So one day I go to his office, as I do usually if I'm shopping in the area. It was 50-something street, and I go up to his office just to see how he's doing. And one day I walked up there. He says, "Hey, LaLa, how you doing?" I said, "Fine, Joe." And he said, he greeted me and stuff, and he said, "Oh, Jim, tell LaLa what just happened with you when you went to California, when you flew to California for Phil." Now I'm standing there as a kid in front of Joe Scandor, and Jim says, "Yeah, LaLa," he was very Italian, big guy. He said, "Yeah, LaLa." He said, he said, "I just flew to California." He said, "And I ran Phil around the effing table." He used the real word. And he said, "I told him that I break his legs and kill his effing mother if he didn't record you guys." He said, "I had Phil running around the table." And I'm standing there in front of Joe Scandori's office, and I'm looking like confused. Because in my mind, I love Phil Spector. Because Phil Spector is producing, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I spent a lot of time with him when he was putting down Barbara's tracks in New York. And he was always nice to me because I was a child. So I'm mixed up in my brain. Joe is laughing. Jim is not exaggerating. He's telling a story. And in my mind, as a kid, I'm saying, why would you do that to Phil? Because I don't know any better. So what I'm saying is that if Joe Scandor had hit on him to scare him, Phil Spector started carrying bodyguards after that.
Yeah, and he did for a long time.
And he did for a long time. So what I'm trying to say to maybe make it a little bit sense, that he got so afraid, he grabbed Darlene and put on "He's a Rebel" and released it because afraid of Joe Scandori.
Well, that's possible. I mean, he was working with her in some level there, I think, as the Blossoms, and then it just came out as the Crystals at that point.
Yeah, because it's because so I don't know if that's the true story, but I don't know. But one thing about Darlene was older. Yeah. Darlene was in her 20s.
Right.
And I adored Darlene. I loved her voice. I adored her. When I used to go to California, the first thing I would do is at a hotel, call Darlene and say, "Darlene," as a kid, I'm only 15 at the time, 14, 15. I'm saying, "Darlene, I'm in town." Fanita was sweet. She was always sweet, Fanita, with the Blossoms. Darlene was a little cocky. But I didn't think it as cocky at the time until we got older and I realized she was cocky. I didn't realize that because I was admiring. I loved her voice. I loved her. And so I said, "Darlene, I'm in town." She says, "Oh, that's very nice, baby." And I can hear these children and the babies crying. She had 2 sons at the time.
She had kids.
So she had kids and she was married. So Phil, when I spoke to Jack Nietzsche, Jack Nietzsche said, "Phil, Darlene was always in his face. Phil, I want to be a star. I want to be caught. And he was like reluctant because she was married. In those days, the same like it is now. They want the young people, But he was using her for background. He was using her on different lead things like the Bobby Sox and the Blue Jeans. But even when we went on the road, I'm just skipping a little bit. When we went on the road on tour, the Bobby Sox and the Blue Jeans came on the road. Yeah. Bobby Sheen came on the road. He had 2 singers with him to do a few dates with us with the Dick Clark tour. Darlene was not there because Darlene was home as a mother with her children. So Jack Nietzsche was telling me that she kept bugging Phil. So Phil gave her the name to try, because he wanted Phil was a user. He wanted to make sure she could stay with the Blossoms and doing background. He named her Love. He named her Darlene Love because her name is Darlene Wright. So he gave her that name, thinking that would help her keep quiet because she wanted to be the big star. If you watch one of the movies that she was in, which was an all complete lie, 20 Feet from Stardom, She said she really got famous when she was in her 40s, which is true.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
She wasn't famous when we were teenagers. So with that story with Joe Scandori or with Darlene, when I spoke to Jack Nietzsche, and I was saying to Jack Nietzsche, I was in my 50s, and I said, Jack Nietzsche, I went to meet him at the Mayflower Hotel in New York when he found out that I came from Europe. And I told him that Darlene lies, and after she did He's a Rebel, she's lying and saying she did the Do Run Run. He said, Phil would never. And then I said, she lies and says she did River Deep Mountain High, that it was supposed to be her song when
Tina
she
Turner did that.
Yeah, she lies and said that Phil was going to give it to her, but he gave it to Tina Turner. If nobody's there, Tina's not there to defend herself. So when I was speaking to Jack Nietzsche, he said that's a complete lie. It's only to make Darlene look like she was a great singer, and Phil wanted to give her everything, all body song. He said Phil paid $25,000 or more to Ike to let it be, let him run the studio, let him record Tina, him stay out the way. Jack Nietzsche said Phil only wanted Tina to do that song. So when Darlene's on stage, she says it today, she'll say it tomorrow. She says, yeah, I'm going to do this song, River Deep Mountain High. She says, but he gave it to Tina. However she puts it, it's a lie.
I have heard her say that because I've seen her live.
Yes,
wow.
It's a complete lie. She says it in every show. She says it because she does it well, and she says it in every performance. It's to make people think that, just like she said, Phil, when she wanted to lie when I was in Europe about she did the Do Run Run because I was off the scene. Do you know people believe when I walked down the street that she did that song and it was a lie because I was gone? She started that lie in 1984 when I left, and she did Leader of the Pack with Elliot Greenwich. When she did Leader of the Pack, the two great songs that was a hit in that Leader of the Pack show on Broadway was River Deep, Mountain High, and the Do Run Run. So now I left for Europe in 84. That musical Broadway came out in 84. Darlene started all the lies. When I hit the scene back now, and I nailed her, and I loved her, but I nailed her. I nailed her on Facebook. I said, she's a liar. And toe to toe, it's called her a liar. And she's afraid of me because
Good
I
for
love, I love her. I thought the world of her when I was 15 because I loved her voice. And for you to come, yeah, you did He's a Rebel. Yeah, you did He Showed a Boy I Love. But Phil was in a place where he was smelling himself, and he did wrong by us. Because, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the truth. And he's in California thinking he's that great, and he would not be nothing without the crystals.
That is so true. That you have a fantastic way of putting it. But now He's a Rebel went to #1, and then the follow-up.
Let me tell you how that happened.
Go ahead.
And then He Should Have Boy I Love went after, didn't do that well, but it went okay.
Yeah.
Now we're on the road. Back to Joe Scandori. He's bugging Phil. He's ignoring us. And the Joe Scandori saying, what the hell is wrong with you? He says, Crystals have a contract with you. You left California and you started in the studio. You've got to record the Crystals. You got to bring them to put something out. He's ignoring him. When the Crystals, we're all established now. Mind you, that's why that 20 Feet from Stardom is bullcrap. Is because we was an established group. Darlene lied all through 20 Feet of Stardom like we were nearly vanilly. Darlene was cleaning baby diapers and crap. And the Crystals was traveling all over the world. When I was 13, we didn't need a Darlene to make us famous.
No, you already were.
We made Darlene famous by using a Crystal name underneath her voice.
Yeah, she was nothing before that.
She was nothing.
Wow.
And people don't realize that. And I'll call a spade a spade. So we're on the road. We're driving in a car, going to do a gig. All of us, Patsy, Barbara, all of us, 5 of us. We on the road. All of a sudden, naturally, when we always travel, we'd always put on the radio just to see what numbers and where the numbers are. We hear these, He's a Rebel. We don't think anything of it. And then it says, He's a Rebel, #1, the Crystals. We looked at each other like we had 2 heads.
Oh, my God. You were in a car when you found that out?
We was in a car driving, and you know how you put on the FN to see the top 10? And we hear this #1. We were lost. We didn't know whether somebody took our name. We didn't know what to do. And so
they didn't inform you of any of this.
Nothing.
You just heard it on the radio. Wow.
Phil just released it. So now when things got really crazy, and we found out that it was our name, we knew it was our name, but we found out what Phil did. What do? My voice is very strong, Barbara's voice was very small, but it was pretty,
Yes.
but it was very light. So we had to go grab He's a Rebel song, practice it, and sing it. I sang it just as well as Darlene would ever sing it. And
I was going to ask you that. So you had to, you're on tour, and now you got to learn these at least one or two new songs.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he's sure the Boy I Love was the follow up. Did you perform both of them live after that?
Yeah. But we did. But I could sing the hell out of it,
Sure.
because my voice was younger, my voice was just as strong, and nobody knew. Nobody could tell the difference because we didn't say too much. Eventually, we said it, or they found out, whatever like that. But that's how we found out when we was on the road doing it. And then when He's Sure the Boy I Love came out, the only problem was Darlene's from Texas. She's not from California. She's originally from Texas. So she had that I always dream the boy I love would come along. I don't sing like that. If I was going to that, I would do it like Brooklyn. I always dream the boy I love would come along.
Right.
Totally I would do it more Brooklyn. So when I had to do that part, I would do it like I would naturally talk. But it was hard for us. And then Phil got so, and because he knew he was wrong. So then what happened was I was always flown out to California, and I put down to Do Run Run, Then He Kissed Me, the Christmas album, Little Boy, Girls Can Tell, everything I put down after that. But Darlene got her popularity off of the Crystals. Then she became, which is totally crazy and totally a freaking click with this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Darlene said, if you ever listen to her, she said she bugged for 2 or 3 years. She says it with her own freaking mouth. She said she bugged Little Stevie. She bugged Bruce Springsteen.
Little Steven, yeah.
Little Steven. She bugged Bruce Springsteen to put her in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She did it for 3 years because she was a puppet for them. Everything they asked her to do, she was on stage with them.
Yeah. Yeah, Little Steven. I listened to Little Steven a lot on his, well, not him personally, but his station on satellite radio. It's a good channel, and he does play the Crystals, but he tends to play the Darlene Love stuff. Okay,
yeah, because he kisses up to her, but I don't see. Let me tell you one thing. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Little Stevie, he's a sweetheart, but he knows I tell the truth.
Sure.
And Little Stevie and Bruce Springsteen, I'm dying to meet Bruce Springsteen. I'm dying to look at his face. I am dying to do it.
I if it's funny because you're new to the show here and everything, but we're already into like almost 100 rock shows and different podcasts that me and Rob have done, and I always give it to Bruce Springsteen. I think he is one of the phoniest people. I'm just going to say one of the phoniest people in the business.
I'm dying to meet him. And let me ask you one thing. When you're not going to take any of this out, are you?
No.
Okay.
No, we're going to release it the way it is.
Okay. Bruce Springsteen and Little Stevie. Darlene is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because Darlene patronized them, kissed up to them, whatever she had to do, and what she did, what they put them in they helped do it. Because they all in a clique. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is all in a clique. Is who do you kiss up to that you become, whatever, So Darlene says it. She says, I kept bugging Little Stevie and I kept bugging Bruce Springsteen. But you know what pisses me off with Bruce Springsteen and them is that Little Stevie did a Little Girl.
He did.
Little Boy. So you copied from me. Bruce Springsteen, he won't admit it, but he copied Santa Claus Is Coming to Town, my version when I was 15.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
Little Steven did Little Girl. Okay.
I mean, Little Girl. When I did Little Boy.
Yeah. Right. The same song. Just you changed the boy and the girl.
He just changed the boy and the girl.
Yeah. No, but what I'm going to say is he did it, I think, with his band, The Disciples of Soul.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, if you go back probably quite a few years before that into the mid 70s, there was a guy, a New York performer, you might remember this guy named Willie DeVille.
Oh, let me tell you something.
You remember?
Willie DeVille, copied Santa Claus Is Coming to Town from me.
Yes.
From Phil Spector's sound. Even though he did a great job and it came out good. But what bothers me with them is that when I was away in Europe, they used Darlene for everything on their shows. And when they did the Rock and Roll of Fame thing, like even Paul Schaefer said he don't know why they did it. They say that Darlene wanted them to do, because she kissed up to them. They wanted her to do, for her to do the Rock and Roll of Fame. Sometimes naturally you do a song and you entertain. She made Bruce Springsteen and them, Little Stevie and them, do Run Run, so she could make the people think that was still her, that was her song, because she was a liar then.
Wow.
And that's what they did to put that in somebody's head, that's what, she recorded that song. She lied. She lied, and she said, first of all, she said she did the Do Run Run when years ago, for 30 years, this woman lied. She said she did the Do Run Run, and years ago when I did it, she said she put down the track, and Phil Spector lowered her voice all the way down to the bottom and put me on the top. Now you got to be a stupid person to know that Phil would not even dare disrespect his ability as a genius, as anybody, to take somebody's voice and put it down low and put somebody on top. He would just erase your behind.
Right, take you out of the mix altogether.
So that was the lie she told. After I came back, I nailed her. I nailed her like you nail a picture on a freaking wall. And I said, you a liar. You never was there. And then Jack Nietzsche told me, when I saw Jack Nietzsche, that's what I was telling you. When I met Jack Nietzsche, Willie DeVille was at the Mayflower Hotel with Jack Nietzsche.
Yeah.
And I met Jack Nietzsche again. He was fabulous. I met Jack Nietzsche when he was in Austria doing some shows. He was fabulous.
Yeah.
He wore that black stuff on, and he's a small guy, and he wore his black stuff on stage. His wife was a sweetheart. He had a great show. So I know Willie DeVille. Yeah,
and he did a great version of Little Boy as Little Girl.
He sure did.
It's better than Little Steven.
It's better than Little Steven.
And also Little Steven kind of did it trying to sound more like Willie DeVille, I thought.
Yes, me too.
When I heard that version, I said, he's listening to Willie DeVille and he's going to do it the exact same way. I wasn't impressed, but Willie's version's fantastic.
He nailed it. He nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how, first of all, I went and met Willie DeVille, as I said, when I lived in Austria, because a girlfriend of mine, she knew him. She lived in Austria, and she said, have you ever heard this guy named Willie DeVille? He's from America. And I said, no. She said, oh, we love him here in Austria. We love him there in Europe. So she took me to the concert. And when we got backstage, and Willie DeVille was so sweet, he said to me, LaLa Brooks, I'll let you. He let me backstage. We talked. He said, I honor you. I copied your song. And he was really so. As I said, when Jack Nietzsche tracked me down, who was at the hotel with him but Willie DeVille.
Wow.
And we were there to record again. I was in my 50s then. We wanted to record again, but then Jack Nietzsche died. And that was a shocker because we were set to call him. When I went to see Jack Nietzsche up at the Mayflower Hotel in New York, Jack Nietzsche, all leather. Willie DeVille had on his black, but Jack Nietzsche looked really kind of thrown off because he had been in with drugs and stuff, you know. So it had an effect on him. And I hadn't seen him since I was like 17. So it was like, oh my goodness. We were both filled up. And Jack Nietzsche said to me, he said, as he began to talk and he got loose and feeling comfortable with me, he said, LaLa, you know, I was effed up. He said, I was going for 8 years. He said, I was in love with Buffy St. Marie and she broke my heart. And I had to listen to all of his stories, which was good because it made him feel relieved, you know. He said, I adored Buffy St. Marie, but, you know, things happened in my life. And so then we started talking about Phil Spector. And he said, Phil Spector, if it wasn't for me, he said, it would be no effing Phil Spector. He said, my arrangements made Phil Spector. He said, and Phil Spector never paid me, never gave me what I was due. And he was nailing Phil Spector. And then we started talking about Darlene. He said Phil Spector didn't want to do anything with Darlene at some time is because he felt she was too old. He said, damn sure he would never put her on to do Run Run and put the voice down and put your voice up there. He said because it was a children's song. It was a song for a young woman, not an older woman. And he said Darlene's voice, Phil could not use it on a lot of things is because it was too gospel and too heavy. Yeah. And it had a gospel sound. So all those lies she told, I nailed her when I came back from Europe. She doesn't play with me. Darlene does not play with me. People will get mad. You know, the people that kiss up behind will get mad. And I shouldn't say this about Darlene. I love Darlene. I love the ground she walked on. But I don't like in a business when you take somebody's material and you and say you did it, and many Darlene lied. And a lot of people thought she did the do run run, and I was out of work because of Darlene.
I've had to explain to people over the years. A lot of people I know have said, "Oh, that's Darlene Love." No, that's LaLa Brooks.
Yeah,
Okay.
and now what she does was
Yeah.
she was on Gayle King's television program, radio show about maybe a few years ago, and everybody knows now who I honor now is Paul Schaefer. Paul Schaefer put me on David Letterman so he could bring out the truth. He knew Darlene was a liar. He wouldn't say it because Paul's not like that. Paul loves both of us. But Paul Schaefer knows the truth about who did what. Paul Schaefer, when they did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Paul Schaefer went and had dinner or lunch with Nicole Spector, which is Phil Spector's daughter. I know her very well. So she called me after they had dinner and stuff at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and she said she was sitting with Paul Schaefer. Nicole Spector, she said Paul was upset, and Paul was saying, I don't know why Darlene keeps saying that she did that song and make people have the thing in their mind that song belonged to her. He said, why would she even do it on Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just to inflate it more of the lie?
Yeah.
You know, Paul Schaefer is a good guy. He put me on David Letterman for the truth, and I admire him and I thank him today. But with Bruce Springsteen, I would love to meet Bruce Springsteen. Now his wife, Patty, is a sweetheart. I saw her just by coincidence when I went up to Sirius Radio and she was there doing some kind of thing with some singers. She found that I just come from New York. She said, LaLa, I copied the Crystals. I admire you guys. Yes, but that Bruce Springsteen and that little Stevie, they patronize Darlene's lie. And that's wrong because Bruce Springsteen and little Stevie would not like somebody to do his riffs on his, what does he play? Guitar, bass, whatever he plays.
Guitar.
He would not want anybody to do his riffs or his music thing on any recording and lie and say it's somebody else. Say it's John Henry. He wouldn't like that. Bruce Springsteen wouldn't like if somebody wanted to take his music and do a same song and lie and say that's him. That's him. So why would you guys know the truth and not patronize Darlene for the wrong? You guys,
because they're kissing her butt.
Yeah,
basically.
You guys are no better than her. No better than her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I'd love to look I'm dying one day to look at Bruce Springsteen's face. I wouldn't argue with him. I wouldn't tell him off. I would just want to look at him and say, how dare you? How dare you copy Santa Claus is Coming to Town, little Stevie copy little girl for my little boy, and not give me that respect to say the truth that Darlene is a liar. And I would tell her 50 times a day. I'd stand toe to toe with her, and she knows I don't play. I don't play. Especially when my heart, as a young girl, Darlene Love 6 or 7 years older than me.
Sure.
As a young girl, I admired her and still admire her voice. I would, at my mother's house, to show you sound, I used to put on the radio. And I loved the Zippity Doodah, and I used to put on the radio, and I used to just put my head to the ear, my ear to the radio, just to hear her sing. And then you lie, and because I'm out of America in '84, and you do Lead Up the Pack in '84, you lie and you claim my song. Are you crazy?
I guess she figured you weren't going to be around to even say anything.
She thought I wasn't coming back. But I came up. I came back.
Wow.
I came back on her. She don't play with me.
Yeah.
She don't play with me. I've done shows, and Darlene was booked on it, and she didn't do it. She canceled out. If you look at the Lincoln Center,
if you were going to be on the show at the same time, she would cancel out.
Let me tell you something. You see the Lincoln Center show?
Yeah.
Where I do the River Deep Mountain High?
Yes.
Okay. You know why I did that?
Why?
Me, Ronnie Spector, and Darlene Love was the stars, the headliners of that show at Lincoln Center, wherever we did that some years ago at Lincoln Center. The guy, the girl who works at Lincoln Center, and one of the guys that do the Ponderosa Stomp in New Orleans were collaborating together to put this big show on of all the girl groups in Lincoln Center. But the main acts was me, Darlene, and Ronnie.
Right.
He said to me, LaLa, you do your hits. Darlene will do her hit, but she also do River Deep Mountain High. I said, no problem. He mentioned the pay, great pay, no problem. You and Darlene and Ronnie. Next thing you know, he called me about a week or so before the show. Before I do it, he said, "LaLa, I have a problem." I said, "What is it?" He says, "Darlene canceled out." I said, "Really?" So he said, "Yeah." He said, and one of the songs they made the arrangements for already was River Deep Mountain High. Would you do it? Mike and Rob, I was so scared of that song.
It's a great song.
It's a great song. I was so afraid of it because it's so strong for me.
That is a
And
good
I know
song.
It's a tough one to sing, I would imagine.
It's a tough one to sing. And then Celine Dion did it well, and a few other people, and Darlene did it well too. So I'm thinking, oh God. So I said to the guy, I said, "Listen, I know you said I had to do my things, but I'm afraid to do that song. I've never done anything like that." He said, "LaLa, please." He said, "Darlene was supposed to here to do it, and she canceled out on the show. So could you please?" I said, "Okay, do me a favor." I said, "I'll go to the rehearsal. I'll learn it. But if it comes out, I'm too scared to do it." I said, "Would you get mad at me if I cancel out and just do my things and just leave that song?" He said, "Okay." I go to the studio, and all the band is there. Now, Mike and Rob, I'm doing it at a FIA, at the studio, at the rehearsal studio, right?
Yeah.
When I did it, they went crazy. And I'm like, huh?
You nailed it.
I nailed it. So if you pick up River Deep Mountain High,
Mhm.
Paul Schaefer's playing on it. He went crazy. He called me out of the place, and I hear him on the phone, "LaLa, LaLa, you don't get the hell out of that song." I said,
Well,
out of fear. So what I'm saying is that I don't know whether I'm just saying, quote, she said she had to do something else. And I still love her for the pleasure of God. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to love everybody. But I can't stand her lying ways, and I can't stand her deceitfulness, and I can't stand her arrogance, and I can't stand when she lies. There's another big song that she said lies and said she did, that the Blossoms in the background for, and it's a big hit. It's an old hit that had a great background sound. Come to find out, it wasn't the Blossoms on it. It's somebody that sounds good, just as good as Darlene. So she lied and said they did the background on that. There's a lot of things Darlene has lied about. To give you an example, 20 Feet from Sodom?
I've never seen it, but I've heard of the film.
Okay, they changed it, the one that comes in the mail. Because the film, I nailed the guy that was the director. He said, "Oh my God, LaLa, I'm so sorry what Darlene did." But anyway, when they received the Grammy for it, the Grammy was only given to the director and the producer. Because the other people don't get Grammys when you do a documentary. You know that.
Yeah.
So Darlene got up there, she accepted it. One of the guys that was the producer or the director died
She kept it?
a few months before the movie was released. So the guy that was the producer, director, one of them that was living, Neville something, he said, let Darlene accept it. She got up there and accepted it, and made believe she did say she was accepting it by him. But when you say something and you say it so crazy to it's confusing. Darlene got a way of saying things that it's like double talk.
Yeah.
But then when the one man that got it was the producer of it. He's done documentaries before, and then he let Darlene pick up the one, go to the pulpit and get the one for the man that was deceased, and he had the power to do the documentary. So she was really accepting the award for him. It was not her award. Do you know if you go on her page now, people congratulate her for her Grammy?
Oh my God. It's like it's hers. Wow.
And she accepts it. Like it's a Grammy.
She doesn't say, wow.
I'm going on her page. I don't go on it anymore, but I went on the page one time and I saw someone, she doing something. They said, "Oh, Darlene, we love you. And we're so happy because I'm happy about your Grammy and all the achievements that you've made." And she runs on that lie because the man is dead now. He died before the thing was produced. Now, the guy that accepted his award and wanted Darlene accepted on the other guy's behalf, he probably didn't know what to say. She did say this was going to be accepted by the one that passed away, whatever. But the way she put it and the way she held it, and because they made her the head of the film, she was able to do a spin on it. You know how you can spin something? And today, 2020, Darlene has people thinking that she won a Grammy for that movie. Just like the 30 years when I was out of town, because I went to Europe in 84, didn't come back to like 98, 97. Darlene had people thinking that she was the lead on to do and run. And that's what she does. She lies and says, oh, when she was speaking to Gayle King, and Gayle King, they did their research and found out she was lying about the do and run, because they was going to do Oprah Winfrey and them was going to do a time life story about her book, but there was too many lies, so they canceled out on her. So Gayle King had her on a radio show that comes on in the morning, and she said, I guess she found out that she didn't do To Do and Run, because that's one of the biggest songs ever. And so she said, Gayle King says, well, Darlene, if you didn't do it, she says, oh, no, I didn't do it. She says, but, so then Gayle King says, well, if you didn't do the lead vocals on it, why do you do it on stage all the time like that? So she says, oh, because it's a part of me. It's a part of your lie that you did, and you can't sit down on it now. So now what she says is, oh, I didn't do the lead on it, but she won't say LaLa Brooks did the lead. She'll never say that.
She don't say your name, right?
She doesn't say my name. She'll say, oh, I didn't do the lead. But then she'll lie and say, but I did the background. That's a lie, because
she's not on that record at all.
At all. On the background, Sonny Bono's on the background, because it was such a silly background. And then when I spoke to Jack Nietzsche told me Darlene's a lie about the song, Phil wanting her to do it, because it never happened. It never happened that he wanted to do River Deep Mountain High. And he said another thing, Darlene was not even in town when we was putting down the Do Run Run, and I'm the arranger, so I know who was there.
Damn, that's an amazing story.
So you got all these people that in the business, they'll lie for another artist because they need to use that artist.
Of course.
That's why this business is cutthroat. And if you're not grounded, you can die with it. I'm grounded. And I'll stand toe-to-toe with Stevie. I'll stand toe-to-toe with Bruce Springsteen, and I will stand toe-to-toe with all of them. It's because I love them as people, as artists, but I don't like the little sneaky undertone evil of it. I don't like that.
And unfortunately, it still exists today.
And it exists, Mike. It exists.
Yeah, you guys want to hear something funny? Dave Chappelle was just talking about the same thing, about the Chappelle show, that he signed his contract, and then they gave the thing to Netflix, and they gave it to HBO Max, and he didn't even make $1 on it. And he called Netflix and said, can you please take this off your... And Netflix took it off.
Yes,
HBO
see that?
To go F himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. After Dave Chappelle originally offered the show to HBO, and they told her it'll never work, this and that. And Dave Chappelle said, I want to do a sketch show. I want to give it to HBO because I want to be able to curse and do this and that. And they told him no. Then he went to Comedy Central, and they gave him a contract. And he said, like any brother, you sign a contract, and then you pay for it later on.
In this business, they don't like the truth.
Of course not.
They don't
want to
like
control
me.
Everything.
But if I walk in there, they don't like me to stand up for the truth, and I'm for the truth. I'm not perfect. Everybody makes mistakes in life. That's just developing as a person. But if you got me, you got honesty.
Yep.
If you got me, you got a spiritual thing. If you got me as a friend, I'm your friend for life. As I say, I don't hate Darlene. There was no hate. I just don't like that. If you're supposed to be that great, then you should go on your greatness with your own shoes. You don't have to put your shoes in my feet, my shoes where I wear them. I say she's a great singer.
Yeah.
You know, I say she's a good singer. She's a great singer. You know, she's you know, great in what she does. You don't have to go right on my shoulder and try to take something from me, because I'll never take anything from you.
Well, you know, I mean, people make the mistake. Somebody's a great talent doesn't make him a great person.
Exactly.
So guys like Springsteen and Little Steven, they kiss up to her because, they love the music. But that doesn't mean everything she does is gold.
Yeah,
and what you're telling me, I mean, this is like, I didn't know any of this. This is amazing.
Yeah, and then a lot of things in Europe in '84, a lot of things Darlene did with them. So they felt obligated. Darlene even was on, if you know, Darlene was on a Little Stevie was doing a recording with Darlene.
Yeah, they did. I kind of remember that.
He was on her label. So it was like, you know, the whole tribe, they do something. They're all on the same path, walking on the same road together. So it's like they're not going to see left to right. They're going to see only what they want to see and do only what they want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm left behind. But I want to see that Bruce Springsteen. You hear what I'm saying? I want to see his butt.
Well, maybe that day will come.
I hope so. I hope so. I don't hate him, but I don't, and I'm not mad at whatever.
No, you got a bone to pick. It's natural.
Yeah, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? You wouldn't want, like I said, you wouldn't want somebody getting up there faking and make believe they did your song and your thing on Bruce Springsteen, and Little Stevie the same thing. Like I said before, they wouldn't want somebody standing up there and he did some riffs and some bad stuff and some good stuff, recording and did all of his little intricate, musically. Would you like somebody to say that John Henry did that and you didn't do it, Little Stevie? No, I don't think so. So why do you think about me?
Yeah. Amazing.
And I didn't get, like I say, I didn't even get work. A lot of work was denied me because of Bruce Springsteen, because of Little Stevie, and because of Darlene Love's Lie. And you're sitting there in your New Jersey place, mansion, or whatever the hell you have, and you don't think about this little black girl or that little one that used you, Darlene, to make her own self big, and you sitting in your mansion with all your millions, and you end up doing my song when I'm 15 years old, and then try to shaft me with Darlene lying, and you guys went with it. Y'all are just as wrong as Darlene is.
Of course, just perpetuating the lie further.
And I don't give a damn how much money you have, because the money doesn't make the person.
Exactly. I agree.
You can have no money and be the sweetest person out there. I don't have near as much as money as Bruce Springsteen, but I tell you one thing, I don't have a character like his either. Or I have a character like Darlene.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
LaLa, I mean, I got to get back to the couple questions here that I think it's relevant to what you're saying as well.
Okay.
With the Do Run Run.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you're talking about knowing the business and everything. That was kind of the track, I think, that did Spector and everybody realize, okay, we got to go back now to the original Crystals. Okay. Do a song with them. When you went out to LA to do that, you were at Gold Star Studios, right?
Yeah.
Spector.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know you had a hit with that song? Knowing the business the way you did at that point? Because it seemed like it was gold. Probably right out of the gate.
I you know what? My brain was so much with doing exactly. I was this type of kid that just wanted to make people happy. So I was always trying to make people feel happy. I was never thinking about, is this going to be a hit for Phil? I was always thinking about when Phil would come back in the studio and say, LaLa, I want it sung this way. I want you to do it this way. And he'd turn down the lights so I can get the mood. All I was thinking about is making sure that Phil was satisfied. I never thought about the child. Yeah. So I always, that was my thing. If I can do anything to make somebody happy in it, they're satisfied with it. That was all I wanted at the time. But
the fans went crazy for that song.
Oh my
right?
God, that's the biggest song ever. I can go all over Europe.
Yeah.
Even the smaller kids would be singing that. That's why Darlene wanted to steal it and lie and say it was hers, and she did the lead. Because He's a Rebel was number one. She couldn't be satisfied with that. But the thing is that the Do Run Run is bigger than He's a Rebel. When it comes to overall, when it comes to the quirkiness or the corkiness or the song.
Yeah, well, I mean, he when I hear He's a Rebel, okay, and I do like the song, okay, and a lot of people have covered it, even like Joan Jett has covered it, and bands like that. But I don't see it as a Crystal song. To me, it's just a Darlene Love, Phil Spector production, kind of thing. But to me, it doesn't seem like a Crystal song.
Yeah, and then plus, it's a He's a Rebel. It's a song where the Do Run Run is a gimmick. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You know how little gimmick lyrics. So with the gimmick lyrics stays with the brain.
Well, it was a hook. I mean, you had a hook there.
That's what I mean.
That stays in your brain.
That stays in the brain. But as far as thinking it was a hit when I was very young, there's nothing I did as a kid that I thought would be a hit because I didn't have that mentality.
You were just doing kind of what you thought these people had for you to do right and all that. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
But now I want to talk about the next one because this is, to me, it's like the greatest or right almost at the top of all the girl group songs, and that's Then He Kissed Me. Okay, now that was the follow up to do Run Run, and that song is not only one of my favorite all time songs of that genre, it's also in my all time favorite film, and I'm sure you're aware of this, is Goodfellas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
there's that famous scene where Henry is taking Karen through the Copacabana kitchen, and they just play the whole song. I think it's like almost the whole song. And, you know, it's just one long shot with no cuts. I'm a big film buff, so to me, it's an amazing scene to watch how Scorsese did this. And it really just captured the moment.
That's a great scene.
It was probably about 1963 in the scene in the movie, so it was like the same time as the song, so it was timely, and it just fit perfect. Scorsese has a fantastic way of using songs in his movies. I think he uses the Stones a little too much, but that's just my opinion. But I mean that, and I always, I wanted to ask you something. And were you aware that the rock band Kiss covered that song in 1977?
Yeah,
you were aware of that.
Somebody told me that later.
Oh, you didn't know it at the time?
No, not at all.
Okay, yeah, that was on their album Love Gun from 1977. And it's one of my, I'm a big Kiss fan, especially the old Kiss. And I always loved that, and people that love Kiss back then were kind of like, oh, that's corny, whatever. I'm like, no, that's a great song, man. I used to love it, But and that song to this day, it stands the test of time. Same with the Do Run Run, back to back, those two tracks, it's amazing. But after that, now, that was a big hit. Then He Kissed Me. I think you went to the UK after that because it actually got to number 2 in the UK. Then He Kissed Me. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you were on Ready, Steady, Go.
Yes, we was on a lot of things in England.
A lot of TV shows. Yeah.
We did well in England. We still
now,
do
64.
well in England.
64 in England. Obviously, the beginning of the British invasion. When you went over there, did you meet anybody? Did you meet the Beatles? Did you meet the Stones?
Well, we met the Stones. We didn't meet the Beatles. The Beatles was leaving when we came in.
True, they were already on their way out. Yeah.
I think they were at the airport. If I'm not mistaken, they was leaving at the same time we was coming in.
Wow.
And then we met the Rolling Stones, but at the time the Rolling Stones wasn't the Rolling Stones. They were the Rolling Stones, but they weren't famous.
They weren't big. They were about a year away, probably. By the time you got
we
there.
met them, and we just didn't think anything of them because they were the Rolling Stones, and we worked with them. We was with them, but
there's an amazing tour that Ronnie Spector talks about in her book, Be My Baby.
Yeah.
Where he talks about being on tour, and the Stones are at the bottom of the bill.
Yeah, because they wasn't that famous. Yeah.
They weren't that big yet. Yeah.
And I think we worked with the Who's too. The Who.
You work with the Who also, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Who. What is it? I think it's in.
Wow.
It's in Quadrophenia, the movie. I think it's in Quadrophenia. There's a scene where you see the mods all dancing in England in the club, and it's the Do Run Run is on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever seen it. I think it's Quadrophenia that has that. Yeah, I'm sure the Who loved your stuff. I'm sure.
But we did. I mean, Mike, we did so many things, and so much that I'm not angry about things, and I'm blessed in so many ways, and I just like when people are good people and kind people and do the right thing, and especially in this business, because this business is a cutthroat anyway. But if you just learn not to,
it is, and in your time, at least today, the people don't get ripped off as much as what happened back in your times. Contracts today tend to be followed a little bit more. I'm sure stuff goes on, but you guys were blatantly robbed. Okay,
that's
like so
true.
many bands were. I mean, even the Beatles were, even the Stones were. Okay, the Kinks were robbed. So many of the British invasion bands were robbed by their managers and their record labels, and then and on the American side, the girl groups and some of the. I mean, when we do a rock show podcast, especially talking about bands in the '60s, every one of them had some kind of story like that.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because you hear the stuff on the radio and people think, oh, LaLa Brooks must be living in a mansion somewhere.
Yeah.
And it just isn't so. But I want to flash forward now, okay? And I got to ask you about an album of yours that came out in 2013. Now, you
Yeah.
connected with Norton Records.
Yeah, I did.
One of the best labels out there today. I
Yeah.
have a lot of material at home here on Norton.
Yeah.
Miriam's a wonderful person.
Yeah.
How did you get involved? Did she approach you? Did you approach her? How did that happen?
Well, they approached me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I knew I was doing something in New Orleans at the Ponderosa Stomp, and they were there, and they wanted to do a recording, and that's how we did it. But Mike, I don't want to. Is there any way that we can just end this, because my son just called and I'm getting a text from him.
Oh, no problem. I just wanted to talk about that. That's fine. And then also, I know you have something, I guess you could say it's tentative because it's in April and we don't know what's coming up yet with the whole coronavirus and everything, but I did see that you have a show scheduled April 16th in Roslyn, like a charity benefit show for wounded warriors.
I do? Wait a minute.
Well, it's on your Facebook. Okay.
Okay.
It says here Friday, April 16th in the Christopher Morley County Park in Roslyn. You're doing a show with Dennis Tufano, who used to be in the Buckinghams.
Oh, I work with
and
him
a bunch
a lot.
and a bunch of doo-wop shows. Okay. A bunch of doo-wop bands, excuse me. And it's a drive-in kind of thing. Okay, where you get the tickets and you bring.
Yes, I am doing that. That was I was supposed to do that, Mike. I was supposed to do that October 3rd, and they pushed it back. Yes, thank you for reminding me.
Well, listen, I'm out in that area a lot. Okay, I spend a lot of time in Glen Cove too, which is the next town over. Yeah. So I am going to be there. Okay. Yeah. And I definitely, if I don't see you before that, I will hopefully see you that day.
Oh, sure. And always know that I'm humble and I'm a happy person, and whether they stole from us or not, it doesn't make me angry. It doesn't make me not feel that I'm rich, because as long as I have my health and my strength and everything is happening in the world, what could I complain about?
That's if you don't have your health, what do you got, right?
What do you have?
No. So, well, LaLa, I want to thank you so much. LaLa Brooks, thank you for coming on and telling this amazing story. This is like one of the best interviews we ever did.
Definitely,
and,
thank you.
I appreciate it. And I just want to mention, too, that we found out the other day our podcasts are in the top 100 in Sweden. So these people in Sweden are going to really hear your show. Okay.
Oh, great. I hope they book me.
All right.
I'd love to get it the heck out of it.
Oh, yeah. Anybody listening, book LaLa.
You're not kidding.
Call me. I'll hook you up.
Especially in Europe. But you guys, thank you so much, Mike. It was great talking with you.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Mike.
Yes.
I just want to say one thing. I have to say one thing, because my heart is so humble. If it wasn't for the fans, I'm telling you, the fans, I would not be where I am today. And I bow to them. I'm grateful to them. And I'm so thankful for every fan out there. I've got to say that, because it just touches my heart.
Well, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that as a personal thank you, because I'm a big fan as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
All right,
we're
LaLa.
all big
take
fans.
care now.
We all love you, man. Doing a great job.
Call me back.